Good morning. It is the 15th of July. I am Lieutenant Colonel Dick Merritt, United States Marine Corps retired. I'm a board member for Huts for Vets and television producer for the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress. Today we will be discussing the stories of returning combat veterans to our community and how we can harness the power of veterans to heal through Dr. Jerry Alpern's recent book, Vets for Vets, Harnessing the Power of Vets to Heal. On our panel this morning we have Dr. Jerry Alpern, psychologist and Huts for Vets board member. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning.
Next on today's panel is former Marine Corps Corporal Brian Porter, Director of Operations for Huts for Vets. Good morning.
Good morning.
And our third panelist today is Paul Andersen, Aspen Times columnist, author and founder and executive director of Huts for Vets. Although he is not served, he holds the title of Honorary Marine. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Colonel Merritt.
Good to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
Jerry Alpern, PhD, is a Korean War veteran holding the National Defense Service Medal. He began treating World War II and Korean military personnel as a neuropsychiatric technician at Valley Forge Hospital in 1954. He spent 15 years as a professor at Indiana University Medical School, where he authored a number of professional books, articles, and psychological tests. Since moving to Aspen in 1975, he has maintained a private psychology practice which has included a multitude of U.S. veterans. The Huts for Vets program has been a perfect fit for Dr. Alpern's major interest in the healing powers of wilderness and therapeutic needs of returning veterans. He joined the Huts for Vets board at the outset and has participated as a volunteer for every trip Huts for Vets has taken to the high country to provide mental health support that might be needed. During the past Hut trips, he has led seminars offering practical psychological guidance and self-administered psychological tools for the participating veterans. Dr. Alpern's methods for treating post-9/11 veterans are to do so with an emphasis on peer counseling. His book offers guidance to vets, loved ones of vets, and mental health workers how to maximize the vets' healthy return to civilian lives. Jerry, what caused you to write this book, Vets for Vets?
That's a really interesting question, and I have a very strong answer. For decades, I was treating vets. They would come into the office, but vets coming into the office, coming out of war, are the worst patients for mental health professionals. We expect people to come in with anxieties, with fears, with life situations, which they're really interested in talking about. And they come in motivated to talk about their problems and their feelings. Veterans would come in, usually brought in by their wives or referred by a doctor. They did not want to be there. They did not trust that any shrink was going to be able to help them. They were not the kind of people who talked about their feelings. As a matter of fact, they were mute. So I used every technique that years and years in the universities taught for helping these vets. And our success rate was, I've got to admit, minimal. And then I met Paul, and Paul was taking these vets into the wilderness, and he was putting together a program which you're going to hear about. So I began to prepare. I couldn't read any of the professional literature about helping vets because that's what I had been doing for decades, pretty unsuccessfully. So I started reading books by vets, that is the vets who were returning from Afghanistan, from Iraq, and those people told the story about what really went on and what they were really suffering. So we go up into the mountains. Paul takes us all up into the mountains in small groups, and I began to see something that to me was miraculous. The vets, instead of sitting there sullenly, not talking, slowly began to open up, and Paul will tell you why that happens. And over the course of these wilderness programs, these vets became a support group for each other. They would tell the most horrific stories, and the other vets were supporting them, you know, urging them on, accepting the most horrible things that they had seen and done. And so I sat there wide-eyed for 3 years watching what I could not reproduce in my office and finding out that they would talk to other vets. They knew that they were understood by. And so I felt my job then was to produce a book that would describe how can we use these powers of vets to help each other when mental health can't help them. Certainly the vets organizations and what they were doing wasn't helping them. So I produced a book about what we had learned from these trips, what I had learned, and how families can help, spouses can help, communities can help. Just, you know, last week the New York Times came out with an article about all the failures of the VA. The Congress had an investigation, and their conclusion about what was needed is they needed community-based programs. And they have just come out with this, and we've been doing this for 3-4 years now because of what we have learned. So that's why I wrote the book.
The title of that editorial in the New York Times on the 7th of July is Heal the VA, but First Do No Harm. I think that's where you're
Yes, that's the article. And their major conclusion was to turn it over to motivated people like us, veterans who can help and know how to help. Not give pills, not give treatments that don't work. Get them out to the wilderness. You're going to hear about that.
Good. Thank you. I've read the book. I read it in one sitting. Couldn't put it down. Really related to it. Next on the panel is former Marine Corps Corporal Brian Porter. Brian is Director of Operations for Huts for Vets. He's a combat veteran. He served in the First Gulf War and has been awarded the Combat Action Ribbon, Southwest Asia Defense Medal, Kuwait Liberation Medal, Meritorious Unit Citation, Good Conduct Medal, and Overseas Medal with 2 stars. And we've interviewed you for the Library of Congress. You're up there with your story here at GrassRoots. Since your return to the Valley, Brian, you've participated in a number of outdoor activities for healing from your combat experiences. It's been a long journey for you. I know you personally.
Yeah.
In Chapter 2 of Dr. Alpern's book, it's titled The Wrong Way to Treat Vets. What are your personal observations regarding this chapter?
Very powerful book. Again, I sat down similarly to you and pretty much read it in a sitting, thinking of how this is just a culmination of years of work, and it all is so succinctly put down on paper here. So it can be very helpful for other veterans to read. My experience was I came home from combat, I had a very short amount of time left in the Marine Corps, so I went through the checkout process. I was not around members of my own unit anymore. I was essentially alone in my own space, trying to return to a normal world. We like to use this thought of a normal world. The world hasn't changed so much since the warrior has been gone. The warrior changes, and when they come back. So I had a lot of confusing thoughts in my head. Wasn't quite sure how to grasp what was going on, what the feelings were. And so, like a lot of veterans, I initially just tried to push it away and not think about it. A couple of years later, I was asked to participate in a survey for Gulf War syndrome illness. So it was my first trip to the VA. It was difficult. When they suggested I go to the mental health clinic, I kind of just ran away from there. I took my records and I left. I felt like my problems were not a mental health issue. I felt that they were a moral wound. I didn't know that at the time. I couldn't use Edward Tick's terminology, but that's what I felt. I had done something that was not quite right, that I did not feel comfortable with, and had seen things or participated in things that were horrible.
You mentioned Dr. Tick's book, A Warrior's Return.
Correct.
And the relation to the community. Did you feel that at that time you had a relation with the civilian community?
Not at all. I just like Dr. Alpern was talking about, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't know how to talk about it. anytime I thought about it, it just brought up bad feelings instead of good feelings. So again, I tried to push it down. Did not talk about it to community members because I didn't want community members to know and understand what I had maybe gone through and judge me based on those actions. So a lot of stuff going on, you know, internally. And a couple of years after my initial VA appointment, I was not in the best place. Had gone down to a regular VA checkup and finally went and made it to the mental health clinic, as they call it, which is a place I never wanted to go. You get about a half of an hour with a psychiatrist. Not an easy experiment. He wanted to prescribe pills to me. Again, I didn't want to take the pills, but if you refuse the treatment, you can lose all of your benefits, which I think are entitlements, not benefits. I guess that's debatable according to the military. So, horrible session, tried a couple of versions of pills, did not like them, did not like what they did to me, and unbeknownst to me, I was keeping myself alive by participating in a high level of activity outdoors in the wilderness. On a visit to the VA clinic to get new prescriptions and telling the doctor that what he was giving me was not working, was not making me feel any better. He gave me some advice, which was if you have the wherewithal, try to seek some counseling outside of the VA. So my success was zero at the VA, essentially, is what I would call it. It seemed to me like it was pills or nothing. I tried multiple therapists. Every time I went to the VA, I ended up having a different psychiatrist. It was the same thing. They looked over your records, tried to prescribe the same pills to you. You had to tell them that you had taken them previously. It didn't work, made you feel weird. And again, I kept on coming back to anytime I would feel stressed out, wilderness was my sanctuary. I would have to go out and essentially forest bathe. And I was fortunate enough to meet some older, wiser veterans that we call elder veterans, elder warriors. Colonel Merritt is one of those gentlemen, and that was the start of a process that ended up enabling me to be more comfortable with myself, what I had done, and take a sense of duty that I had tried to discard from the Marine Corps and put it back into play. And that sense of duty is to help other veterans in any way possible. And we do that through our Huts for Vets, and we do that by having great people like Dr. Alpern write books so people can understand what they're going through and put it in more succinct terms instead of having to take 4 or 5 pills.
So in relation to Dr. Alpern's book, that leads you into the 3rd chapter, The Right Way to Treat Vets. I've observed your interactions with veterans and citizens of our valley during Memorial and Veterans Day ceremonies and Marine Corps birthday celebration, along with your participation with Huts for Vets in the mountains. And I think your coming out was at that Marine Corps birthday up at the Aspen Grove Cemetery with fellow veterans, fellow
Correct.
Marines.
Correct. Difficult. I stood in the trees the first year and didn't make it up to the front, but I saw what was going on. I just had this epiphany that there were other people out there like me that had seen and done similar things, and they were still making a life and having a good life and helping others. And again, you, Dan Glidden, they were a couple of those people that really stood out to me, and it dawned on me that the veterans need to be mentoring other veterans. You know, we're the only group of people that can wholly understand, not even being in the same firefight, but separate duties. You can fully understand, not pass judgment, and understand all of the nuances that go on.
Well, in the 3rd chapter, Dr. Alpern's book is titled The Right Way to Treat Vets. And do you feel that you're headed in the right direction and the veterans are headed in the right direction with your experiences of where you are right now?
I feel like when we connect with them, we can get them going in the right direction, but it seems like every year we see lots of young men and women, and I look at them and I see a mirror reflection of myself, that 1,000-yard stare, trying to put into place what moral wounds they're actually dealing with. But having seen 70+ veterans come through our program, having seen them take what they've learned and want to pass that on willingly, that to me is amazing. It's that sense of duty, that sense of pride inside of the person that more than likely caused them to join the armed forces in the first place, wanting to serve and help others.
So I get the feeling that reading Dr. Alpern's book has reached out to you from where you were and where you are now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, to help along that, we have with us Paul Andersen here, Aspen Times columnist, author, and founder and executive director of Huts for Vets. And as I mentioned, Paul is an honorary Marine. And what led you to found Huts for Vets, Paul?
About 4 years ago, I started to read literature about veterans, and what I discovered was shocking. At that time, the suicide rate per day was 18 veterans. 18 U.S. veterans taking their lives every day, men and women. I found that to be an absolutely shocking statistic, a national scandal, if not a crisis. And so I was wondering what could help veterans. And I'd been leading seminars for the Aspen Institute in Wilderness with a book of readings through the Socratic technique, and I thought, let's try this approach. So that's what I put together. It's the genesis of the program as methodology is really the Aspen Institute. The idea of having a book of readings on philosophy, nature, history, and using that to prime the pump to bring the stories of veterans out during programs. Our programs are 3.5 days. It's not long, but there's an intensive experience in nature with the body, mind, and spirit. And that's the approach, really. It's a holistic approach to try to touch every aspect of a veteran who is enduring and quite often doesn't even know that they need the program that they come to. Last week, we had a group of women veterans, 8 women veterans out in the wilderness, and 4 of them were officers who seemed very balanced and very together. But at the end of the program, one of them said, I didn't know how much I needed this experience. Other veterans have epiphanies on our programs. They change their lives. So I know we're making an impact. It's a bit esoteric because it's difficult to prove, but we're doing a study on that. And it will show scientifically the effect of our program. So this is our 4th year. We will take 50 veterans into the wilderness this year to the 10th Mountain Huts. And the 10th Mountain Huts are the perfect venue. We go to Margie's Hut above Lanedo, and this is poetic justice. It was built by Robert McNamara, architect of the Vietnam War, named for his wife Margaret, who found her own peace and solace in nature. So we go to this hut, and this hut has experienced so much love and laughter that I think it just allows something that these veterans can, as Dr. Alpern was explaining, they can really be honest and vulnerable with each other, and they laugh and they have a good time. And I think in laughter comes healing. That's one of the first healing techniques, but also in just normalizing and being able to share their stories. Today, by the way, the suicide rate is up to 20 per day. This is not going away. There are tens of thousands of veterans who have Brian Porter's story and are holding these things inside. They are isolated, they're despairing, and they're desperate.
We've had 2 veteran suicides in this valley in the last 2 years that have touched our lives. It's been a very difficult. Paul, did you just meet up with Dr. Alpern with Huts for Vets? He's written about Huts for Veterans Chapter 4, but did you have any association in the community with Dr. Alpern before founding Huts for Vets?
We were longtime friends, and we go back 25 years, and Jerry and I had talked about many things. We have a great relationship. I think we like the world of ideas. And so when I came up with this idea, Jerry was the first one I went to. As a psychologist, I thought he would understand what I'm talking about here. And so to have Jerry as part of the program has been awesome. And Colonel Merritt, you were the second one I talked to, because I knew as a veteran liaison, not only locally but regionally, you would have an understanding. And then I've gone to all the veterans who serve on our board, and the board is all veterans from the Korean War to the current time. So we have a real perspective on our board and incredible support. Our funding comes from the local community, and we pay all the expenses for the veterans we take out, including transportation. So they pay nothing because we think that they've already paid, and they have. So this is paying back for us. And we live in a community surrounded by 3 designated wilderness areas. We have a world-class hut system that's a wonderful national amenity. Why not use some of that to benefit people who really need it?
10th Mountain founders, Fritz Benedict, 10th Mountain Division, and it's just grown and grown. You mentioned Jerry as being a psychologist for the men, and then we also have 2 women's trips this summer and a co-ed trip, and we have a female psychologist. Could you mention a little bit about Erin?
Yes, Erin Wilkinson is the psychologist who attends our women's programs. She served 20 years in the Army as a clinical psychologist. She lives in Colorado Springs, and she's awesome. One of the things we've done, excuse me, to really make these trips special is to have people on our staff and our board who are uplifting and inspiring and fun to be with. We have a good time at these huts. This is not a somber, downer trip. These are uplifting, very enjoyable experiences. So there's a real lightness of being that comes from being out there. And if we can show that wilderness is a place of national healing, there will be no stronger arguments to conserve more of it and to protect that wilderness that we have. And there will be no stronger advocates than veterans who find peace and healing there. So we're now training, this summer, we will train 10 veterans to run our programs for us. And this follows Jerry's book, exactly. Veterans serving veterans, that's where healing takes place too, because for a veteran to help others heal, they heal in kind.
You mentioned national outlook. When this originally started, we were somewhat local, but now we have people from every state in the Union available. What is your source of recruiting these veterans to come into the program?
It started when I met a man named Paul Rykoff at the Aspen Ideas Festival about 3 years ago. Paul Rykoff heads an organization called Iraq Afghanistan Veterans of America, IAVA. They put out our information to all their members. They have 400,000 members. So that was a wonderful contact. That got us going. This year, we filled our programs through 2 referrals. One is called Team Red, White, and Blue, a veterans organization that's got 122 chapters nationwide. They are putting out our materials to their members, and they're a very active, fitness-oriented, health, well-being organization. They run, they carry the flag. The other organization is called the Service Women's Action Network, SWAN, based in Washington, D.C. And they put out our information to dozens of women who filled our programs this year. So where it's been a bit of a challenge to find veterans willing to take a risk on a program that's 3.5 days, we filled our programs very quickly this year, and we anticipate doing so in advance. And I want to share an 8-minute video with our audience, which is very powerful. So let's cut to that video, and then we'll return here.
Morning, can't beat this. Yeah. Look at it now. Just can't beat it.
The trailhead into the wilderness is really a portal of sorts. It's a place to enter with a new mentality. And for the next 3 days, we're going to be in the wilderness. Open your sensory systems. You know, a lot of us live in our heads a lot. So drop off that if you can. Walk like an Indian. We hike up to the hut at 11,300 feet in the mountains. It's almost 7 miles. We take small groups. We don't take any more than 10 veterans per program. And that's so we can really communicate with them and really connect with them. The wilderness affords us solitude for our group. We know that these men and women have been on the front lines. If they can be at peace anywhere, they can be at peace here. The 10th Mountain experienced some of the greatest casualties of any division in World War II. They came back from the war. A lot of them were damaged, like our veterans are today, wounded inside with psychological and emotional trauma. When they were in Europe, they saw mountain huts that are refuges. They're called refuges there. And when they came back to the States in Colorado, where a lot of them built the Colorado ski industry, they saw an opportunity to create another system of huts that could offer the same experience as the European huts. We look for veterans who are what we consider the highest risk, and we think combat veterans are among the highest risk. I mean, currently today, the suicide rate is 22 or 23 veterans per day. A lot of those veterans have endured soul wounds, traumas to their deepest selves.
I was the third Humvee in the rotation, and boom, IED. Killed my driver, killed my gunner, messed me up, got shrapnel cut. I hit the front of the Humvee. The medic that rode with us lost his arm. My driver was 19, my gunner was 18. My one guy, the 18-year-old, his mom, every year on his anniversary, he got killed. She sends me an invitation, and I still can't have the courage to go visit, because I think they're going to hate me, because they're going to hate me because I came back and he didn't.
I can still see the first guy that I carried and remember turning my head away to the window of the bus and letting tears roll down my face, you know? I had no idea the things that I would see.
When you come home, it's like we've got all this trauma built up inside of us, and we haven't yet even figured out what that is. I mean, we've been changed. We've seen hell. We've seen mankind at the most evil mankind can be.
This next piece from Undaunted Courage, I put this in here because this was a military mission in the wilderness. They're climbing over the bitter roots. So let's look at what their mission was.
Values weighed in quantity, not quality, in speed, not stillness, in noise, not silence, in words, not in thoughts, in acquisitiveness, not beauty.
Do you come to this point in a military mission? Do you come to this point where you can't go back?
Failure is not an option in combat. The mission is going to get done one way or another, and you're gonna do it to the best of your ability, and you're gonna die trying.
It's the most peace that I can feel during the day, because, you know, with like PTSD, it's hard to like turn off the hypervigilance and the sensitivity you have.
And you learn to close that down, and you learn to be that person. But then when you go back to the family,
those things where you sacrifice your life for your friends, those are the things that make you feel proud and should make you feel proud.
What's the right way to help these vets? I would say it's going to happen with the help of other vets. Vets being in a group, learning how to mentor other vets.
Just being around other women veterans, that we understand each other, even though maybe our periods of service are different and our experiences are different, we still get it. And it's nice to feel, it's like a burden is kind of like lifted off your shoulders when you know that other people understand you.
Just meeting all these other guys here has been huge for me. You can, not necessarily like 100% move on from what you've done or what you've seen, but just kind of some coping mechanisms and some ways to kind of continue living your life and to find joy again.
I needed this. I was falling apart before I got here. I mean, it wasn't because I feel like I have 20,000 pounds on my chest right now of what I've got to get done, and I did forget about all that for this weekend, and I think I have a new way to approach some of those things.
Taking what I've learned on the mountain and how I can put it into my daily life, and being able to see the beauty in everything. I did a lot of healing on that mountain, so thanks.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Paul. To follow up on this, all this documentation and research, Jerry, what are your plans for documenting this? In other words, it needs to be recorded.
Yeah.
What are you looking
Well, I've
at?
partnered up with the university. We get, at the end of these trips, these people talk about how much it's helped them. Spouses call us and say, you've returned a different person, blah, blah. These are all testimonials. But anytime you turn on your TV, some drug company has somebody saying, this cured my this, that, or the other thing. And testimonials aren't good enough. So I've gotten connected up with the university and another professor who has already published in this area. And in essence, what we're doing is we're testing these veterans 2 weeks before the program goes. So before they come, right after the program, when the program ends, we test them again. And then 6 weeks later, when they're returned home, to find out what the follow-up has been. And we test them on their sleep and their PTSD symptoms and their satisfaction with life. We have 5 one-page evaluations that are valid tests. And then we're going to publish. She published her fly fishing program in the military journal and we're going to publish it. So we will have empirical documentation about the value of our program, because our ambition is to spread our program or a program like it on horseback, fishing, biking, it doesn't matter, but certain elements of our program, which Paul will demonstrate in this 8-minute tape, will show you all the things we do. We're going to do this, prove that it should be done all over the country.
I understand you're in the process of validating your book in response to the New York Times article of Heal the VA, but first do no harm, and you plan to write a response?
Yeah, just last week, the New York Times came out reviewing the Senate committee that had reviewed the the VA. And of course, they just listed all the things I talked about in the book about how the mistakes that the VA makes. Not that they don't do anything right, but they make a lot of mistakes. And their recommendation just last week to the New York Times was to say the community has to get involved. We need community programs, which I think we've already discovered. So I'm going to write back. I'm going to write an op-ed saying we have a start on that, and some other people have a start on that. So we're going to follow up and make sure that people know. We're going to disseminate the information we have. This program, the New York Times, and many other ways.
And Paul has a series, similar series in the winter called War Stories.
Yes.
Reaching out the community, and in Dr. Tick's book, Warriors Return, the emphasis is on the community. And Paul, could you discuss how you and Huts for Vets and your War Stories is reaching out to the community?
The idea is to bring veterans and civilians together at one table, excuse me, to discuss the literature of war. And for a lot of civilians and veterans, this is the first interactions they've ever really had, and to have it over objective readings that are meaningful and impactful, it allows them to talk together for the first time. So after our programs, we have a community potluck. We invite those civilians who participated in the War Stories program to the potluck so that they can meet veterans, and they know how to talk to veterans. They're comfortable doing it. That integration is essential, and that's what we try to foment.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Alpern has his follow-up, and then in your case, are you planning to do any manuals, military type, how to do the program? Are you planning any more writings?
Funny you should ask. I am, as a matter of fact, planning a manual that will come out that will be a field manual that will describe our story, it'll describe our methodology, it'll describe how to run a program at a mountain hut, it'll describe how to guide and first aid recommendations and that sort of thing. It'll be a complete how-to on our program, which can go to other veterans and other communities who can do these things and replicate what we've done here. That's the idea, is to expand this. And if we could get an op-ed in the New York Times and get some national attention on this, that would benefit, I think, all the veterans in this country.
Thank you, Paul. In closing, I'd like to ask each panelist if they would like to add any information to what we may not have covered today. Brian?
The only thing I feel is important is just what we had just talked about, is the ability for veterans to engage and to be able to speak articulately, and not only with other veterans, but with the community. You know, we're all sort of part of the same team. We don't have the same scenario of hundreds of thousands of soldiers coming home for World War II. They come home in little groups now, sort of go back into society. I would like to see veterans standing up, reaching way down inside and standing up for other veterans, and then also engaging the community, so everyone is aware of what war means as a whole, what really happens.
Thank you. Dr. Alpern?
Well, I think if people want to learn about Vets for Vets, there is an interactive website, vetsforvets.info. And with that, you can read excerpts from the book, you can read a summary of the book, you can order the book as a hard book, soft book, e-book. That's the place to get information about the book. Vetsforvets.info, and you'll see me talk, and we'll get on to the video, to the Vets for Vets, program itself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Paul?
Check us out on our website. We have a new website. It just launched recently, www.hutsforvets.org. It's got all of our information, our contacts, applications. If you know a veteran who could benefit from our service, we take any veteran who has experienced trauma as a result of their service. So please connect with us and join our potlucks, connect with me, connect with the Colonel, any of us, and come to our potlucks and meet veterans. I think it will change your view of veterans.
Thank you. And in closing, I want to thank the panelists for being here today. And the book is Vets for Vets, Harnessing the Power of Vets to Heal. Dr. Alpern, if one wants to purchase the book, how may one purchase
Everyone
the book?
online has it. Amazon has it. Books and Noble has it. But if you forget all that, all you have to do is get on the website, vetsforvets.info, and there's a purchase button. $14 for the softback, which incidentally I like better than the hardback. It's light, you can really carry it around. But if you like ebooks, they're there too. But we are going to watch the video.
Yeah. It is. And this book was distributed. You brought it out on Thursday night.
Oh yeah, I give it away to vets, and I give it away to family members. Okay. I want to see it distributed as widely as possible to disseminate the information. So we have grants, and for any vet who wants the book, just get in touch with me and you got a copy of the book.
Thank you all for being here today. Vets for Vets, harnessing the power of vets to heal.
Thanks, Colonel.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.